Good day, trendy travelers. Hello and welcome to yet another exciting edition of Trendz Travel. As usual, I'm your host Eloise Scoble, and today we start with the show taking you to breathtaking views of both Johannesburg and Magaliesburg as Nadia Ndubuza takes to the old house of mining magnate Thomas Cullinan.
Weekends are for exploring the neighborhood and getting some history lessons. Last weekend, I went into Old Johannesburg Parktown to a house known as The View. I am standing in the courtyard of one of the oldest houses in Johannesburg, which belonged to Sir Thomas Cullinan. Now, this house is still in its original form, kept in immaculate condition for future generations.
It was built in 1897. And the first time when it was built was only this structure here on the central gable, where they created it is to have that circular center, because back then they used the horse carriages, so you had to have bigger space to go around. But also to mention is that this was one of the first houses, if not the first house, to have a motor garage.
Sir Thomas and Lady Cullinan lived in this mansion with their children. The mining magnate used to host royals as and when they visited the country in this plushy home with high ceilings. The house is now used as a museum for the Scottish Regiment. The memorabilia dates back to the Anglo-Boer War, the First and the Second World War, and right up to present day. Some of the memorabilia kept in this house was found in the most unlikely places, such as the Delville Cross, which was made from a tree that was erected there by the pioneers of the South African Scottish Regiment during the war and brought back to the country. In one of the rooms is different uniforms from the generals from different armies involved in the Second World War. The house is kept pristine and used for events.
The South African city of Durban is known for many things. For example, its port is the largest in sub-Saharan Africa, and its beaches are loved by tourists and residents alike. One of its sons, the artist and sculptor Lungile Gumede, wants to carve out a very different spot on the global map for Durban. On most days, Gumede can be found in his studio, slowly molding the next likeliness in his growing collection of wax statues. In 2004, Gumede had the chance to visit Madame Tussauds in New York after an exhibition in which one of his paintings was featured. He returned to Durban, determined to create Africa's version of the famous Wax Museum. His statues of local and international public figures soon earned him fame and a living.
With the income that I get from doing statues, so I'm pursuing my vision to start the Wax Museum. As you can see, I've got statues of political figures, of course statues of sportsmen, of course statues of cultural figures. You know, I'm trying to do the same thing that I saw in Madame Tussauds, and we're trying to do the statues of our icons, our heroes of struggle, you know, in different categories.
Gumede says he's always had artistic leanings, but the wax and clay statues he now focuses on have given him a true sense of purpose.
My dream is about to become true. I'm about to achieve what has been my long-term goal, to actually start the Wax Museum. to invite people to come and experience the very same thing I experienced back in 2004 when I first went to the Museum to Sword, to actually come up close and personal with their A-list celebrities, to their cultural leaders, to their historical figures, and actually, you know, because it's more like a learning curve as well for people to actually come and learn about the history of our country. Yeah, so it's more like educational entertainment in the same place.
The 31-year-old is regularly commissioned by the government, private organizations and individuals to create pieces. But the statues of icons like Nelson Mandela, Hugh Masekela and Michael Jackson are privately funded and are being kept to eventually be exhibited in his museum.
We have a lot more coming up for you after this very short break, but don't forget to catch us on Twitter and on Instagram. That's on Trendz on SABC using the hashtag SABC News.
It was a journey of self-discovery.
It started as a call to adventure.
Some of us leaped at it, some of us refused the call.
But inspired by our ideas to make Mzansi better.
We all crossed the first threshold.
The final 6.
The road of trials began. Not only were our ideas tested, we were tested.
But on a mountain of truth, you never climb in vain. We embraced our shadows and conquered our fears.
It was no longer about us. We discovered our essence in selfless service. From the judges, I learned an unwavering steadiness of purpose to look to nothing else, not even for a moment,
except to reason.
Leadership is not about the next election, but about the next generation.
From One Day Leader,
we learned
and we became.
One Day Leader, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
Mango Group is one of South Africa's most iconic bands, and this year they are celebrating 30 years since the anniversary of their very first album. And we got up close and personal with them, so let's have a look. So today we're having our very special star moment with the lady herself, Claire Johnson from Mango Group. Welcome, Claire.
Oh, lovely to be with you, and that's a great story. I can see you doing it.
Yeah, I was.
I bet you were brilliant.
I was. I had the whole crowd standing.
Awesome.
So, Claire, tell us,
yes.
30 years of Mango Group, how does it feel?
It's 30 years since the release of that very first album,
yes.
Which is, I mean, it's a lifetime ago for a lot of people. It feels amazing. You know, you join a band and you don't know what's going to happen, where it's going to take you, so it's been an amazing adventure.
What were your thoughts? So did you like have a maximum, like, well, okay, well, at least if I sell 10,000, I'll be happy?
You know, we weren't even thinking like that. We were thinking if our family and friends buy it, that's a bonus. So when it really just exploded the way it did, and it kind of reached all South Africans at a very important time in the country's development, we were more amazed than anyone. So we were blown away, and so we're reliving some of those feelings, which is really, really lovely.
And why do you think that at that critical time it pulled so many South Africans together, whether you're black or white, or you know, everyone was like, wow, this is something that I can relate to?
I think the music, obviously, and you know, it's very accessible music. It's very South African, and you know, I think also the fact that we were black and white South Africans just getting on with it, having fun together. I think that was kind of infectious, and people kind of got what we were doing. They understood what we were about.
So at that time, like we were speaking about that particular time, having a black artist and a white artist come together, what was the thought process behind that? Was it intentional? Was it just like, I love your music, you love my music, let's do something together?
It was kind of that. John Leyden was the founding member of the band, and he was always in love with Kwela and Marabi music. And he hooked up with a guy called Big Voice Jack Laroli, who had been he'd been performing that music in the 50s and 60s, and John sort of went, when he met Jack, it was like, oh my goodness, it was a dream come true. And that's how Mango started. That's where the penny whistle got injected into the sound that John was, you know, in love with and was wanting to create in the 80s, the mid to late 80s, and that's how it began.
most iconic performance moment, and what was the song?
I would have to always go with Special Star, simply because of the effect it has on an audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, around the world, that song, wherever we perform that song, even if people don't know it, they sort of get sort of get the energy of it and the feeling of it.
When the stars no longer shine, when the sun goes from, I will be forever young.
The emotion and the satellite link around the world and the sense of South Africa just kind of blossoming and huge positive change. That was very, very special for us.
So at that point, it was basically kind of like you guys were the soundtrack to the great change that was happening and everything that was going on.
Thank you, I like that very much.
Yeah.
Can I quote you?
Yes, you may. How were you coming out of? One would have thought that it's like all of these really political songs, that's why people got involved, but it really isn't. It's more like just very inclusive, and I can sing it and not have understood what the part it was, but still understand where it came from and enjoy it.
Thank you. Yes, there's a context to our music, very much so, and we are very South African. But I think we've always felt that it's an enjoyment that one. I don't know. It's about feeling good, and that's often how people learn lessons. You know, the best way you can see it with children. If you want a child to learn something, it's experiences or remembering the things that we've, you know, been through together, and you know, it makes you look forward to the next, let's say, 25. You know, let's see. As long as people like our music, as long as we love what we're doing, as long as, for me personally, as long as I can sing well, I'm in.
What has been the growth for you personally, and in the growth in the music, and how has things, you know, ebbed and flowed and changed to your first album to your latest one?
It's odd, you know, you go through phases where you almost want to be different than you were. So you'll do your first 2 albums, and then there'll be a sense of, oh, we need to change. And then as time goes by, you realize, no, you know, we have a sound that people like, that is distinctive and that we love. So what you do is you try and write songs within that genre that kind of feel good and are good. So that's kind of where we're at now. So with the Faces to the Sun album, it was all about almost going back to our roots.
Yeah. The South African film industry is showing no signs of slowing down with yet another locally produced film. The film Love Lives Here tells the story of a young woman's quest for love and her idea between traditional and modern romance. Let's go behind the scenes.
This is one of those rom-coms, man, that I think is gonna blow the continent by storm.
It's not so far-fetched. It's not so distant from what I think everyone kind of experiences. It tackles the topic or the idea of sex in relation to love.
It explores all the love out there.
I mean, there's sex scenes, there's cussing, relationship problems that people don't actually get a chance to go speak to their parents about.
Especially in the country, we don't have movies that challenge our perceptions, you know, of sex and how we talk about it.
We've got interesting characters, and over and above, we've got good performers. We've got a good story.
Great cast.
It's introducing new people.
On set, it's just like everyone is so willing to make you more comfortable.
It's funny and it's a happy kind of set to be on.
Norman Market, the director, has been amazing on this film.
You know, it's so nice to work with a director that gives you space and a creative space.
It's nice to work with someone who trusts actors' ideas.
Okay, that's good. And let's try it again.
The movie follows the life of an author by the name of Zinhle Malinga. She writes romance novels, and she has a certain belief about how love should be like and where it should be found, and she gets a rude awakening when she meets my character, Nkosinathi Shane.
So the character Zinhle Malinga, she's all about romance, but her main thing is she wants to get married because that's how she was raised, that you know, become of age and then you must get married and then you must bear children.
The movie is very exciting. It's a funny movie, but it's about love.
I play a guy called Duke. He's a lover of things, he loves women. He's wild, you know, until he meets like his match. This girl who just turns his world around.
It's a must-see. It's different. It's current.
I think it's really well written.
It's a happy movie and it's about people whose stories are so relatable.
It's a romantic comedy. It's hilarious, it's romantic, it's sad, it's sexy, it's everything in one, and whether you're a girl or a guy, it's a movie you want to see.
Coming up after the break, we have yet another up close and personal, and you're gonna love this one. Stay tuned.
Azikho izinto ezibuyisela ubudlelwane emumva njengamanga nezimfihlo.
Ungakhulumi amanga, khuluma iqiniso.
Uthi wathi la kanye Edmond and kungenxa into wena wayithethayo.
Usandile unamanga.
Wabamba red-handed embhedeni. Benqunu. Ngixelele Edmond la ubunixela la wathini kuwe.
Ungaphuthelwa umxazululi wezothando kunyanyana njalo ngoLesibili ngo-6 ntambama la ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure.
Makes me happy, gives me joy, sing hallelujah.
Do people ever come to you and be like, oh, praise God, hallelujah?
Some they will come and say, praise God.
Praise God.
Abantwana say what? Hallelujah.
Gospel of love is my love. You say, oh, victory.
Gospel Unplugged, Sundays at 5:30 only on SABC 1.
Hey guys, it's me again, your hostess with the mostest, and we're back with another Up Close and Personal. And boy, do we have a surprise for you. But before I let you know who it is, I'm going to throw some numbers at you. Let's see, she's been in the industry for about 20 years. She has 7 albums under her belt. 6-time nominee of the Grammy Awards. I have nothing for number 5, but I do have a clue for you. She's definitely put a move on my heart, and she's back because she's officially missing you. It's her 4th time in the country, and while she's here, she'll be doing 3 concerts. 2 letters R&B, 1 word sensational. Yes, you've guessed it, speaking to none other than powerhouse, vocal powerhouse, that is Miss Tamia Hill.
Oh, how are you?
Hi, how
Thank
are
you. That was impressive.
Oh, great. You're quite impressive.
Thank you.
So let's start with being back in South Africa. What keeps you coming back?
Listen, as an artist, the only thing that you ask for is to go where the love is. And certainly I continue to feel that. Every time we come, we have such a great time going down memory lane, and it's just a great time.
Well, it's your 7th album, and obviously there's been a great progression from the first time you did an album to now. What has been your personal growth journey, and do you feel like your music has changed, and how so?
Wow, you know, I can promise you that I'm not the same girl, you know, when I did the first album that I am now. Obviously, I've grown, you know, have experienced life, being a mom, being a wife, and, you know, and doing these albums, you know, independently. You know, it's just, it's about, life is about growth, you know. It's about sort of growing not only musically but as a woman as well. And so I think you can see that on the album. Certainly Passion Like Fire, my latest, is definitely grown in sexy music, you know, I think there's a slightly more you know, mature side that's showing, but it's still yet, you know, still very fun and carefree.
So now you are, as you said, you're a wife, you're a mother. These are things in your life that you can't just switch off.
No.
And so how do you balance being the vocal powerhouse you are, you know, the great that you are, and bring that back home to just be a mom and just be a wife?
Oh yeah, well, you know, my kids don't care. No, you know, I think, you know, God gives you children to humble you, but it's definitely, you know, I think they appreciate and enjoy seeing mom, you know, doing what I love.
So there's been a couple of years between your last album and your most recent album, and I also know that you've been through your own own personal struggles, your husband and yourself, and then, you know, being diagnosed with MS, and for many people that's like, wow, my life just cannot go on.
Yeah.
But yours has been. And so what was your mental state going through that and saying, well, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep my career and I'm going to still be the mom and wife that I've always been?
Well, I mean, I think for me the most important thing was, you know, my family and surrounding myself with people who were able to support me, and you know, because you don't do all of this by yourself. You know, being able to share what your vision is and having people around you to help execute that is a big deal, and also having people around you that respect sort of what you're going through physically, and you know, and things like that are important. And you know, I've been fortunate that I've, you know, been working with, you know, the same people for many years, and so we've just created a synergy and it works.
And what has brought you back to the studio on this last album?
You look just like the man in the picture by our bed. The suspense is pounding and clouding up my head. I'm checking your clothes.
First of all, I only go in the studio when I feel it. So, you know, I like the studio. I love performing. So I like getting back in the studio and sort of singing about topics that are appealing to me at this time. But the best part is definitely getting out there and connecting with people through music.
Okay, so along the line you've worked with a lot of greats. When you started out they were greats to you, but now you're greats to other people. So what have been your most favorite collaborations, and who would you in the future like to collaborate with?
Wow, you know, I think, you know, I always stay open in terms of who I collaborate with. You know, pretty much all the collaborations weren't really, they kind of happened organically. It was like, you know, a phone call, hey, are you available to do this? Or, you know, so I stay open in terms of collaborations, and I enjoyed every collaboration that I've done, you know, starting with, you know, getting a chance to work with Quincy Jones. That was the ultimate collaboration.
Yeah. Okay, then lastly, I would just like to know, what is your musical inspiration? Not how you write your songs, but who do you listen to and think, wow, this is my person, I like this person?
You know, I think I am like everyone else. I think music sets the tone. You know, I was laughing a little bit, you know, coming on the flight, because it's like 14 hours and I'm listening to music and I'm trying my best not to sing out loud. It's torture. I think for me that hurts the most, you know, because you're feeling the music and you want to sing out loud, but you aren't able to. So it depends on what type of mood you're in, you know.
Great, thank you so much for chatting to us.
Thank you.
Guys, we're definitely going to get that selfie for you. And that brings us to the end of this week's show. But we will be back again next week, same time, same place. So don't forget to catch us on Trendz on SABC using the hashtag SABC News. We love hearing from you. See you next week.